Personally, I'm humbled, I'm thrilled, and I'm really happy. The reason is because this is our first ever empowerment webinar that we're doing as Circleg. And I'm really honored also to have you, Ursina, as our first guest. We wish to let anyone who is joining us, whether you are an amputee, or you're someone who knows, an amputee and you feel like this session will be beneficial to them, please remind them to join in. My name is Magdalene, and the reason why we have this webinar, this is just the first of many, is because we have designed it in such a way that we want amputees, to be empowered with knowledge and to be able to know how to go about when it comes to issues related to amputees. And so without further ado, today, as I had mentioned earlier, I am joined by a physiotherapist. I'll be able to share her name, but she lives in Switzerland. She's been working as a physiotherapist for the last 20 years, 16 of which she worked in a rehabilitation center. The rehabilitation center was in Switzerland. And other than that, she has been able to do a lot with amputees. She's also worked at a rural hospital. The rural hospital is in Tanzania, and she's been there several times for so many years. She's also been to Uganda and Kenya, courtesy of Circleg, to support, the training of orthopedic technicians. She's also worked on manuals for amputees and carry out training sessions with amputees. Besides that, she likes to stay active, whether on foot, on a bike, or even on the basketball court. And so I'll give her the opportunity to also introduce herself. Welcome, Ursina.
Thank you very much. Very pleased and honored to join this first session with you. Very happy to be here.
Yes. Maybe to start us off, could you just, I know I've given a small description about who you are, but could you kindly, to anyone who doesn't know you, could you kindly just introduce yourself? And yeah, we can start from there.
Perfect. You've said quite a lot about myself already. Yeah, I've been working as a physiotherapist, and I've been working a lot with amputees for the last years. The work still fulfills me, so I'm still gonna keep on doing it. And it was also a pleasure, working here with amputees and then also in different East African countries. Also for me to learn a lot and see different circumstances.
Amazing. Could you also just share with us how your experience has been working with amputees?
For me, it's a very, very interesting kind of work. On the one thing, it's just, I love working with people because it's just always so different. And with amputees, what fascinates me is kind of, the work with people, but also with technique. So it's kind of the coming together prosthetic devices, really technical work, and then bringing this together with the human being, very individual, see who needs what. So this kind of connection is definitely one thing that is very interesting for me.
Now that you've mentioned, the technical bit and how you're able to work with all these different people to ensure that everything works effectively, do you also get to, speak or talk to amputees when it comes to physical activity?
Of course, physical activity for me is kind of the hard part as a physio. I think it's just working with amputees, as I said, it's different things. It's on the one hand, it's the technical part, then it's the bringing the technique to the human being, and then it's the human being itself, which I think has a big impact. And allowing to do more physical activity to increase mobility is a very, very powerful impact, I think. And it's one thing that even if technique doesn't work as we want, or you don't have access to the best you can, with physical activity, you can also still do a lot in increasing mobility, increasing well-being of a person.
And I think these are things that need to be talked about more, because personally I'm a person who uses a prosthetic, and I had never at any point in life, thought of, engaging in any physical activity. So I'd want for you to just explain to someone else who is still trying to figure out if they should either take part in any physical activity. Why do you think it's important for them to take part in physical activities?
I believe it's very important. The first thing is it's important because we're human being, and physical activity is just important for everyone. Okay. Talking about well-being, also talking about, prevention of cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, musculoskeletal diseases, whatever. So it's just important for everyone. And personally, I think for people facing a physical disability, it might even be more important, or It might even be, it needs a bit more of an effort to get there, but the
Okay.
impact on my belief is even bigger. It's also the impact on not doing any physical activity, I believe, is bigger. I mean, if you're young and healthy, you don't move for 2 weeks, you just get up and you move again. But facing a disability, for example, an amputation, might is even harder than getting back, or the effort needs to be even bigger to get back to being physical active. So because your stump changes, your ability changes, so it's even a bit more of a struggle. So I think it's very important to try to keep some kind of a physical activity, to stay active in however you can. And I mean, there are a lot of options. You might not have all possibilities depending on your amputation, but I think it's very important, and I think there are many ways you can try to stay active. There are a lot of options. If it might not be with doing a lot of walking, it might be, I don't know, swimming, or
Mhm.
it might be bicycle riding. You might need to adjust your bike a bit, or it might be in a group. It might be dancing. It might be yoga.
Yeah.
There's like so many possibilities where you can try to take part and be active.
I like the different aspects that you've mentioned, because trying to picture this, like someone would think for them to take part in any physical activity, then it means they have to go to the gym. And you've mentioned, yoga, swimming, it could be stretching, whichever makes you, comfortable, at least in one way or the other, you're able to just move your body, strengthen your muscles and be active generally.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
it's also, I think it's also about trying out new things. And maybe you
Yes.
try out something and it doesn't work for you. Then, I mean, you don't lose anything. But if you find out something and it works, it also gives you a lot of confidence, right? People might think, well, I'm an amputee, I'm not able to do, for example, yoga. But try it out, and there's so many possible ways. It could
Yeah.
also be standing on a basketball court and just throw some balls. It might just show you, well, things are possible. It's also what I think is it's very, very benefiting doing something in a group. Might be with other amputees, might also be with all kind of different people, and
Yeah.
just do your part in it. I mean, it doesn't need to be perfect, but I think trying out is a very important and very empowering.
Yeah, I agree. And because it also starts with an individual mentally, is this something that you want for yourself? And so I'd also want to know, what are some of the common mobility challenges that amputees face that you could share with us?
Mobility challenges. Well, I think one thing is definitely walking on uneven ground, uneven or uphill or even more downhill or laterally tilt. The ways are this. I think is something a big challenge, really depending on where you live. Also, crowded people, places where you have a lot of people pushing you away. And this is also the more comfortable you feel in walking, or the more comfortable you feel with your prosthetic device or your crutches, the more you can go try out again and be in these places. But it's not only walking; it's also for example, using public transport, because you just
Yeah.
need more space for the seats or whatever. And other people might not understand, right? This can be definitely a thing. Or, I mean, one thing is also, if you know it yourself, if you have like a discomfort, sometimes you might need, or you should, put off your prosthetic device, put it on again. And depending on where you are, this is also quite a challenge. So I think, and also new situations, right? New situations, new ground, new place, and there also I think it's the more confident you feel. It
Mhm.
doesn't mean the better you walk, the easier, but the more you feel comfortable and you know what you can face and what you can't, what you can
Yeah.
handle and what you can't, the more you know where you can go, or the more you know where you need help or where you don't. And as long as you don't know what you're able to do, then you kind of, might, oh, well, I'm not going there because I don't know. So
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of knowing what you can or what you cannot do.
Yeah, and I like that aspect because now it helps someone to be aware of what can work for them and what cannot work, and also understanding what makes them uncomfortable. If you're taking part in a specific kind of activity, physical activity, and you're not feeling yourself, you're not feeling okay, it's not a must. You don't have to limit yourself because you love a certain activity, then that should be it, right?
Yeah, right,
Should be
right.
open.
Yeah,
Should
you
be
should be
open
open.
up
It's
to more.
exactly that. Yeah. And I mean, I don't really like the sentence, you can do everything, because that's kind of not true, but you should be able to try everything, right? And then you'll have some limits, but you should go there. And then you try out something, and then you see, well, maybe that really is not possible anymore, but you try out something else. I think it's keep on trying out things, and then see, can I adjust something, or do I have to change?
Yeah, and just have an open mind.
Exactly. I think that's
Yeah.
That's important, yeah. And you have to find out
Okay.
yourself what's possible and what's not.
Okay. So what are some of the types of exercises that an amputee can take part in to strengthen, their muscles and just support their movement after losing their limbs?
I think there are different aspects. One thing is you can always improve you. It's about improving your walking skills and walking techniques. There is a lot about weight bearing on your prosthetic device. It can be things
Hmm.
on standing in front of a step, bringing all the weight on the prosthetic device, and moving your other leg up and down. Maybe increasing it with, really stay tall, put your arms in the air, for example. So it's about weight bearing. You can also, in walking, you can also, try to walk to a rhythm. I like, there is these apps where you have this metronome where it gives you a rhythm. You might
Okay.
start with, 60, 70 beats per minute, and then go up or go down to, because mostly you stand more time on your not affected limb, and to really get back to this rhythm and having like equal time on both legs.
Okay.
You can also put on a headphone, walk to music. That really
Yeah.
depends on the song. Then you have to find the right songs. So it's kind of increasing your walking technique. Then the other thing is strengthening your muscles. That we're talking about, muscles also of the lower trunk, of the glutes, the bottom muscles, or the stump
Okay.
muscles. I mean, there you have a lot of exercise that you can do. You can watch YouTube. You do planking, bridging, all these kind of stuff. And there you can also go, without your prosthetic device. Maybe your stump cannot be on load for that long. Then you can also do
Okay.
exercises without weight bearing. You have so many possibilities. And then the third thing maybe is endurance, which is
Okay.
probably the most difficult part. Because if you have a good stump, you can do, walking, riding, whatever, but you might not be able to do that for such a long time. Then maybe try out swimming, or
Mhm.
maybe you have in the gym, you have a rowing machine or something like that,
Yeah.
to also kind of get your endurance part up.
Wow.
So I think it's a bit, yeah, it's technique, it's strength, it's endurance. So it's a wide range you can you can do improv it.
Yeah. And so personally, as you're speaking, I was just thinking, what are some of the exercises that I've been doing, let's say this year? And you mentioned about a plank. Personally, I have this app. It's called a Step Up. It's something that has been trending. Let me just put it that way here in Kenya. And so it's an app where you download it on your phone, and anytime you walk, it captures the number of steps you've
Yeah.
like walked. And there was a day where I didn't notice that I had walked for more than 5,000 steps. For me, that was really good. I was like, okay, this is a nice way to just keep fit and have, like, I don't know, an amazing different kind of thing to do. And I've also taken part in yoga. I'd never done yoga before till last year. And it was really also a nice, relaxing way of unwinding, whether you had like a long day, and just standing there. One more thing. So my stump is a bit weak, and I want you to speak to someone who has like a weak stump and they are trying to figure out, how do I go about exercising or even taking part in this physical act? For me, if I'm removing my prosthetic, I'll use a knee brace. So I don't know, what are the other options that you can, advise someone who has like a weak stump and they're trying to see what will work for them? What kind of advice would you give?
Well, you definitely have to find the balance of, forcing or like loading your stump and not doing too much, right? It depends a bit, talking about weak in a muscular kind of way, or talking about
Muscle.
weak, okay, because it can also be like, sensitive of, having
Huh?
pressure sores and things like that. Because
Okay.
that's definitely a thing you have to watch out, that you don't overload your stump, and that you don't have wound like pressure sores, or whatever. And then you have to, because to increase walking, it's always good to train, you do exercises with your, like wearing your prosthetic device that you can really load on
Okay.
it. But you also might to do both, right? When you need a break from your prosthetic device, you take it off and you do exercises without it, right? And then, well, it really depends on the stump, right? You can also do, take an elastic band and
Yeah.
train your bottom or also your lower muscles with a resistant band, right? You can do in every direction.
Okay.
If you below knee amputee, you can also like being on your knee and training putting on loads on your upper leg without the prosthetic device. I think it's try to include your leg as much as you can, but without
Okay.
overloading it, right?
Yeah.
Because what we don't want someone getting really excited about doing training and then trains for I don't know an hour 2 days and then he's
Exactly.
just not able to do any more for another 2 weeks. So we don't
Yeah.
want to do like these peaks.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important to find something that you can do like on a regular basis.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. I hope it will be, yes, you have, and I hope it will be beneficial to any other person who is trying to figure out, how do I go about this? Earlier on, we had mentioned that for someone to take part in a physical activity, it begins with an individual. Mentally, in what space are you? Is this something you want to explore and stuff like that? So I just wanted to know, how does physical impact the mental health and confidence of amputees?
It's in my opinion, it's a very very big impact.
Okay.
I mean, if you find an activity or something you can do you wouldn't have thought before, I mean, it can give you a boost, right? If you see, well, wow, I'm able to do that. This is going to be a big part. And also, it's just, I mean, if going from one place to another, I don't know, walking, going to work, whatever, isn't using you as much because you get better, right? If it's getting
Yeah.
easier, this is going to affect your life a lot, right? If I
Yeah.
reach the market without being exhausted or without having pain, I mean, I'm going to feel a lot better than if I
Yeah.
know I have to go there and I can hardly reach it, right?
Yeah.
Not being exhausted makes you also feel good, and also, I mean, it gives you the opportunity to participate more in social activities, right? If you can go with your family, with your friends somewhere, and you don't need help for that. It's I think it's a big impact. And I mean, also in general, I think we all know that if you do some physical activity and we're exhausted of that, I mean, it makes you feel good, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
It's a good feeling, right?
Yeah.
So
It
I think
is. It is.
and it also, I mean, if you're further affected, also it might give you independence. You can stay independent for much longer if you're physically
Yeah.
fit. I mean, I don't know. You don't like being dependent of other people, right? So it's I think
Yeah.
it also gives you a good confidence there. So I think it's for
Yeah.
mental health. It's probably one of the biggest impacts, I would say.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, because I remember in 2020 when Corona was, it affected so many people, literally globally. And at that point, I remember trying to see what would work for me mentally to just be in a better space despite what was happening, because life had thrown a curveball to all of us. And I think one of the things that I personally did to stay mentally fit as someone who is using a prosthetic was to do a bit of stretches, and it kind of helped me boost my confidence, I would say so, because now I could not concentrate more on what was happening globally, but I could concentrate on, so at least I've lost a bit of calories, at least I feel my well-being is in a better space, I am now active. And I agree with everything that you've mentioned. So depending on where someone is, they shouldn't limit themselves. Take part in these activities, it will impact you in terms of your activeness, in terms of your independence, and your well-being at large. So what are the simple ways that amputees can incorporate movement into their daily activity?
Well, I think it's something very important that you mentioned, because I think it's about including it in your daily life. I think
Yes.
that's a big part. It should not be like always like an extra session, but incorporate it. It's exactly what you say.
Yeah.
And then also this of course is very individual, but That might be, that might be on your daily way to work or way to the
Hmm.
market or way to your family. Maybe you walk instead of taking the bus, or maybe you even do like an extra round. You go uphill on purpose. You don't go around it, for example, or you take your bike instead of the bus, something like that, or you
Yeah.
incorporate something on the way back. Maybe you can, I don't know, go for a swim on your way back from work. It also might be something you can do at work, or while working, or while cooking, or while doing something. Maybe you can, I like making these little balance boards, where you have a board and you put like a broomstick or something in between, and you can stand on it, go left, right, or front, back. And maybe if you have to think about it at work, you stand up and you stand on your balance board. You have some loading exercise, some balance exercise.
Yeah.
It takes you like 1-2 minutes every, I don't know, maybe every second hour or something like that. So it
Yeah.
can be some simple exercises during your daily routines, or maybe you can build in a routine in the morning or in the evening with some exercises, or I know you arrange something with friends. Every Wednesday we meet, I don't know, at the soccer field, and just, I don't know, throw some balls around, or whatever you enjoy. But I think it's really having it inside your daily routines is gonna make you really do it on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Yeah. For that, I think you have to see where you can fit it in your routine, but it also
Yeah.
is very important that it is something that you like doing.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna tell you, I don't know, do yoga if you don't like it. You have to try that, but I think you have to find something that makes you feel good, right? I
Yeah.
think that's a very important part, and that's just not for everybody the same. For someone,
Yeah.
it has to include a ball, and then they're fine. And for someone, it might really not, because otherwise they're not gonna do it. Yeah, it makes you do something that makes you laugh in the best case. Right?
Okay.
It can
So it
be dance
depends on,
or whatever, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Even dancing.
You come
Yeah.
home, you turn on the music, and for 5 minutes you just dance around your house, or whatever.
Yeah, I think that is something that I personally also enjoy. Just listening to music and just, doing some silly movements. It makes
Exactly.
me feel good. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
sometimes silly is the best, right?
Yeah, so true. And so, the other thing that I think from what you've just mentioned that someone needs to remember is that you don't have to do hard exercises. Just think of something that is simple, and it could be either in the morning, either in the evening, or whichever time that is comfortable for one. And make sure that you don't do it alone. It's also nice to do it, in a group, especially let's say something like yoga. It's a whole different thing, I would say. So I'd like to just take you a little bit back to, the well-being and mental health, and how, physical activity comes about it. What advice can you give to amputees who feel discouraged about, movement, or even just engaging in any physical activity?
Of course, there it depends a bit on what's the reason for it. Because I mean,
Okay.
often if you don't maybe have access to a technicians or someone close, if you feel discomfort in your prosthetic device, in your socket, well, it's not encouraging for being physical active, right? Because if every step hurts, it's not going to be fun, right? So
Yeah.
there I think you really have to see if you can do something about it, right? If you have someone that can, adjust your socket, or whatever, see a technician.
Okay.
This is I think, because, yeah, we don't want pain in moving, and then maybe look for some activity you can do also without your prosthetic device, that you don't stop being active just
Yes.
because it hurts. So it's do something about the pain, or it's sometimes, take it off and, I don't know, to do yoga without prosthetic device, or go for a swim, or whatever. It can also be, if the prosthetic is a difficult topic, it might also be doing some different sports, maybe also some
Yeah.
wheelchair sports without your devices. I mean, I know a lot of amputees doing sport in a wheelchair, although they have
Okay.
a prosthetic device, they go up and walk again. But for
Yes.
sporting, for heavy load, they go in a wheelchair and do whatever, basketball, running, whatever. So maybe find something that you can do where you don't have pain. Also go to the gym
Okay.
and train your upper body, just that you have something that you can do. But it's really, pain is a difficult issue, right? But
Yeah.
it should not stop you from being active.
Yeah. Yeah. It shouldn't. You just speaking of wheelchair and someone exercising, reminds me of an amputee. He's a bilateral amputee who loves playing basketball, but they do it while seated on wheelchairs. So there are those who have like, I think both their legs are kind of paralyzed, and there are those, him being one of those who are using their prosthetics, but he would remove the prosthetics, sit on the wheelchair, belt it up, and just be able to take part in trainings and also the whole sport. So it's really important to know what works well for one and what doesn't work.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not for everyone, for everybody the same. And it can very well be you walk in your daily life, but for sports you sit on the ground or you sit in a wheelchair. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So how can, let's say, family, friends, or even other people be like the support system for amputees to encourage them to have an active lifestyle? How can they support?
Well, definitely, your social surrounding is a very difficult, important part. I think. Well, of course, they can be very supportive, and that means not taking everything off them, right? Not
Yeah,
them helping too much, I'd say, but encourage them to be part of them, right? To join them wherever they go, and yeah, maybe even if they do some sporting activity, see if they can join, right? So
okay,
it's kind
yeah,
of. I think it's encouraging them and supporting, but not helping too much, right? Not. I think it's even more difficult if there's a child being disabled,
mhm,
right? Not taking everything off them, but like I mean, without being mean, right?
yeah,
Supporting, encouraging, having them come along, but not taking all the work off them, right? And just, I mean, it's treating them just as you treat everybody else, right? I think that's the important part. Taking them as you
there,
take every sister or brother you would take
yeah,
without disability, right? Having the
yeah.
disability being not in front but in the background.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, and it's good to just have a support system that makes you accountable, and reminds you like, oh, today you forgot to do this and you need to stretch. You need to, just do something to make yourself active. And so that's really, really good of you to share that. What are some of the tips for that amputees can implement when it comes to reducing discomfort or pain while walking with their prosthetics?
Well, I think it's what I said a bit before. And this is also if the better you know your body, the better you know your stump, the better you can also decide, is it something that I have to see someone, or is it something
Hmm.
that I can handle myself? That you can
Okay.
also, that you notice, oh, well, did my stump change? Is it maybe because of that? I mean, it's also, if you gain weight, if you lose weight, your stump is going to change as well. Then maybe you can do, if it's kind of the volume increased a bit, you can
Yeah.
do compression, maybe with a bandage that you fit
Yeah.
in better again. If it's a permanent change, you really might need to see someone, technician, to adjust your socket. And sometimes it's just taking off your device and putting it on again.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, don't want to do it because no, it's okay. I'm gonna keep on walking. But sometimes it's just really worth it taking it off, taking it on again, going this extra step. And then I think it's not stopping the whole activity. Not just saying, well, it's pain, I'm not gonna do it anymore. But also don't do too much. I think it's a bit the thin line of still being active, but not
Yeah.
doing too much that the pain doesn't, but it's really, I mean, look after your stump, see if it changes, and decide, can I do something about it,
Yeah.
about the stump or about the prosthetic device that makes it better? Because
Yeah.
it's, as I said before, we don't, I mean, feeling some pressure is just a normal thing, you have to, but feeling pain in every step is not what we want.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not good, right? Only you feel it, right? I cannot tell you from the outside if it's okay or if it's not. It's something you have
Yeah.
to learn. It's something, yeah, you really have to learn about your body. Also,
Exactly.
here, and you have to take over some responsibility and see,
Yeah.
yes, I can go further, or no, I need.
Yeah. I agree. Absolutely agree. Because if it's something that is making you uncomfortable, if it's something that is bringing pain to you, then you shouldn't continue taking part in such activities. But you should be able to do something that you enjoy doing and you love doing that. So I'd like to just take you a little bit back. We had mentioned some of the common mobility challenges is that amputee face. And you talked about, one of them being the uneven surface where someone is not able to walk well. So my question is, how can amputees improve their balance and coordination when engaging in physical activities or even
Yeah.
walking?
Yeah, because it's a lot different if you walk just on if you can walk on even ground, it doesn't mean you
Yes.
can walk on different surfaces. One thing definitely is being able to have good weight bearing on your prosthetic leg, what I talked about before, and then it's facing these challenges, right? It's going on this uneven ground, and also do what I talked before about walking with rhythm, right? You
Yes.
start do this on even ground and try to have like left right on a good rhythm, and then you go to a bit a more difficult ground, and then you try it again, right? You try because often you start walking on uneven ground and then you start going back to the safety way, right? You always go
Yeah.
on your good leg, but then force yourself to really do this rhythm also there, right?
Yeah.
You might have to put a bit of an extra power in your affected limb to really get over these stones or whatever that might be. But really try to have the walking technique you have on even ground to try to take it over to the uneven ground. Of course, you have to feel safe enough or have somebody next to you, or otherwise, go what I talked about before about the balance board. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not the same then on walking on uneven ground, but it might give you some feeling already for it, right? So
Yeah.
it's you need to challenge yourself, right? You need to leave the safe part, right? You need to
Yeah.
leave the exercises where I can do it. You have to go a bit further,
Yeah.
which of course, I mean, if you wanna really be a top walker, you have to challenge yourself, right? And of course, that includes some safety issues. But if you really want to be able to do everything, I mean, you're not gonna go past without falling once in your life, right? But I think it's very important to challenge yourself, to leave the safe spot, to do balance exercises, to go, I don't know, into the forest and walk on woods and stuff.
Yeah.
But always think about it: how is it okay if I fall here or if it's not, right? So
Yeah.
but challenging yourself, I think, is an important part, and not
Yeah.
leaving, not getting adjusted to just walk around and stuff, but
Yeah.
trying to have a good walking technique and bring it further up.
Wow, great, great, great. So, how does posture impact movement for amputees?
Posture,
Posture,
well, it definitely
yes.
helps. Um, definitely helps a lot, and I think it's something you can also. I mean, for let's face it, for being a better walker, you need to train in
Uh-huh.
walking. But you
Yes.
can definitely do some preparation where you can also train without prosthetic devices and stuff. So, or in the gym or whatever. So, if you have good posture, it's definitely gonna make it easier for you to walk straight and to
Yes.
concentrate on different things, right? If I'm stable up here, I can concentrate more on how I set my foot, for example, or stuff like
Yeah.
that. Um,
Yes.
so I think it's definitely a good thing to train as a preparation, but then in the end you have to implement it in your walking or in your activity that you want to do. But
Yeah.
definitely gonna help you to being more stable.
Yes, yes, indeed. Posture helps in stability and just someone being able to position themselves well or better. Now, still in the same connection in terms of movement and mobility, I also wanted to know what are some of the best ways that amputees can do to prevent falls while moving with a prosthesis, like falling down?
Well, you need to know what you can do and you need to know
Mm-hmm.
where you struggle, right? So that you're prepared, right? That you're
Yeah,
prepared. There, I have big stones on the way. I have to be prepared because that you prepared of where it's going to be dangerous and not. And then what I train with every amputee is going on the floor and getting up again. It's not going to prevent falls, but it's going to prevent staying on the floor, right? You have to be able to get up again. And for
yeah.
me, it's if you train this, it's
Mm-hmm.
going down on the floor, getting up again. Kind of the floor comes closer. It's I believe you're gonna fall better if you
Yeah,
if you try it out a bit. Which I actually think is in East Africa. I think people are a lot better in going on the floor and coming up again
yeah,
compared to Switzerland because I don't know. You just do it more often. So I think it's hard to train falling, but I
yeah,
think a bit you can do it, right. A bit you
yeah,
can learn how to, and then it's also something to decide if falling is dangerous for you or not. because it really depends. If you besides the amputation, if you're healthy and in good shape, I mean, you challenge yourself, you fall sometimes, you get up again, right? And
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
so big of an issue. But if you have other issues or elderly people, you might not want to go there because you know it's dangerous if you fall, right? You might break something. And then it's also a decision: do I maybe use a walking aid because I really don't want to fall? And then it's even more important to know where is it dangerous for me. Maybe if I
yeah,
go somewhere where there are a lot of people, maybe I take my crutches just so people see and are aware of that I have issues with walking. Then you have, I think it's a bit more of being a bit more say it's like secure about it.
yeah.
Like really prevent falling.
Yeah,
So,
amazing. I think for me, the takeaway there is that when it comes to falling, you can't avoid it. It has to happen in one way or the other, but just learn how to go about it and maybe just take a bit of some measures to ensure that you don't get to fall every other day when you're engaging in any physical activity or when you are walking, right?
yeah, yeah. It's really, but falling is, for some falling is very very dangerous, and for some falling is okay. So it's, but you have to be aware of where you stand and how you can avoid it. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Amazing. So we've talked about some of the, physical activities that people can engage in. And we mentioned, of course, yoga, walking, swimming, maybe just doing a bit of stretch. The next question I'm asking is how can one, transition? Let's say they were just doing basic mobility exercises or physical activities, but now they want to move to an advanced physical activities. Let's say it's like lifting weight. Probably they were lifting like 3 kgs and now they want to start lifting, let's say 10, or even just doing another, advanced physical activity. How should they like transition or even move from now the basic exercises to now the advanced one?
Well, I think that's like for everybody else, doing stepwise.
Yes.
And maybe if you're an amputee and it's really about getting higher activity, it might also be good having someone to look at how you do the basic ones. Because I don't know, if it's about lifting weight and you have your full weight only on your healthy leg,
Yeah.
maybe try transition the weight first a bit on your prosthetic limb, and then I think it's about trying out. Also here it's about thinking about consequences, thinking
Yeah.
about, can I harm myself if I go further up, right? Maybe if I
Yeah.
already have some problems with my stump, maybe I have to think about, I want to go there, or just taking really little steps. But besides that is trying out, getting a bit further and see how I react on it. But I think it's an important part is, if we are physically active, we try to go further up, right? And which also
Yeah.
should be the goal, right? If I want to, I don't know, climb this mountain, I have to go further and further in this direction.
Yeah.
And as long as I don't hurt myself, I mean, there are no limits, right? I can always go further up. If it's really about, challenging activities, I might also have to think about, is my prosthetic device ready to do that, right? Do I have a knee joint that allows me to do that? Some technical
Yes.
questions, right?
Yeah.
Which you might also have to ask someone, or try it out really slowly.
Yeah.
Not that your prosthetic device breaks and you don't expect it.
Yeah, nice. I want to connect this with posture, the next question, but it's about strength and fitness. So, how does core strength contribute to better mobility?
It gives you more stability.
Yes,
And it also it prevents you from having a good back is going to prevent you from further problems there. And depending on the activity you want to do, it's definitely good that you're prepared in your trunk, in your core power. Yeah, it's also a bit of a prevention thing,
yeah,
because you always, if you go in a higher activity, you're always going to have some disbalances walking with
yeah,
a prosthetic device. I know the more difficult, the more tired you get, you're going to have a bit of a disbalance.
okay,
And if you have a strong back, a strong core power,
yeah,
it's definitely gonna be some prevention there, that you don't have any further issues, right?
okay,
It's not going to prevent you from overloading your stump, but it's going to prevent you from
yeah,
overloading the rest of your body.
okay, sure. So, I have two last questions because we have like, I think around 10 minutes before the end of the session. And the second last question I wanted to ask is, How long do you think it typically takes for someone to feel comfortable using a prosthesis? Or it will depend on an individual?
This is very individual. I mean, I've seen people, standing on the prosthetic device and walking away, right? And
Ah,
others feel very insecure. I think it's an individual thing. It's also really depending on your amputation level. If you have a long below knee, or if you have really short upper knee stump, it's gonna be a lot harder and it
yeah,
needs more time. It's also a lot about trust in technique, right? Because some just maybe didn't have so many experience with technical devices, and they're not
yeah,
going to trust them, and they really need time to get adjusted. So it's from one day to never, right? It's very individual, but it's very important to work on it, right? Because also
yeah,
someone who is very insecure at the beginning can build up trust very well, but in
yeah,
this time it really needs also to focus on it, right? I
yeah,
think it's something that is worth working on it, right? I mean, there are people.
yeah,
I think it starts with trust in your body and trust in your stump. Some people,
yeah,
they don't look at their stump for the first weeks, right? Then they think I put on a prosthetic device and I never have to look at it and never have to touch it. But I think it
yeah,
really is worth working on it and kind of embrace your stump and feel it and look at it and see how it changes to
yeah,
really have confidence also then in walking. I think it's
yeah,
probably one of the biggest of the things to really have trust in your body, in your prosthetic device, and in the
yeah.
combination.
Thank you so much. So my last question to you is, what's the most important piece of advice you would give to amputees who want to stay active?
Well, it's as simple as that: is stay active and try out things. Find something that you love doing. Don't
Yeah,
try to do something that people tell you you need to,
yeah,
but find something if it comes to physical activity. But
yeah,
find something that you love doing, something that you enjoy doing, and then you're gonna do it, right?
yeah, yeah.
I think that.
Thank you so much. This has been an insightful session. Personally, for me, I've now understood more, the importance of engaging in physical activities and what I'm going to gain out of it, because I cannot just leave my body, be like that. I need to make it active. I need to strengthen my muscles, I need to ensure my posture is well positioned, and thank you so much for this session.
Thank
As I
you.
mentioned earlier, it's been insightful. Thank you. I will end it at this juncture. In case we get any other questions, I'll definitely let you know. But thank you. Thank you so much. Wishing you a lovely, lovely day, rest of your day.
Thank you. I wish you too. And it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.